So a very frequent question to me is asked, how do you learn new music? And the answer is, I've had to create my own system over the years because I bizarrely have sung more operas than any living tenor. And I say that the only person who has sung more operas than me that I know of. I mean, there's a possibility that there's someone out there, but from the research that I've done, no one sung more roles than me as a tenor currently, except for Domingo, who is now a baritone, and I'll probably never catch him if that's ever my goal because he's sung over 150 roles. But now currently, I believe I've sung 82 different operas and something like 86 or 87 roles. I mean, so I have to do constant learning of new repertoire, and I didn't know how to do it at first. And fortunately, I had a good memory for sound and for word patterns and things like this. But as I started having to really dig into it, so it's been about 13 years, very, very serious nonstop learning of roles. And that's why, I mean, I typically do somewhere close to six to sometimes at the most, I think it was 9 roles, 9 new roles in a year, which is just insanity. You go a little crazy through that, but most of the time it's 5 to 7 roles in a year and new things that I have to learn. So the answer as to how do I do that is it's a little trick that I figured out and found out what the word was later, and it's called spaced repetition learning. And so what I have to do, since I had full calendars for the last 10, 11 years, I would map out and see all the things that I have to do during the year. And then I would notice, okay, I've got this is a large opera, then this is an oratorio, this is a lieder concert. Okay, so I have to really make a schedule. And so about a year before I'm doing stuff, and I have the luxury of that because I have my calendar is up to 2 years in advance. But even when I wasn't, I was still doing this. I would memorize and learn music about a year before I had to, and I would start listening to it, getting it in, not really looking at the music. I would listen to as many recordings as I could about it to get some ideas of how I wanted to interpret it. Then I put it away, and about 6 months before the job, I start to open up the score, and I look at it again and think about what I've heard in the past, and kind of, so I have a little bit of a melody. So then I'll look at the music really intensely and get an idea for the score and the role. And then about 3 months in, and I put it away. Then 3 months in, I start to get serious about it and look at where are the problem points, where are the patterns that I can find, the rhyme scheme patterns, the iambic pentameter, which is the way that the flow of the words go. And I get serious about the notes and really, 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 really serious about it. Then a month out, that's when I start writing down beginning of phrases to get my memory to remember all of these different phrases that we have. And so what I used to do when I was learning like these crazy amounts of roles is that I would write out every single word and every single scene in my journal, and write every single one of the scenes and break it down into basically as if I were writing the opera. But the physical act of having to write down all of your words helps you memorize things much faster. So I would do that. And then by the time that rehearsals come, I had a pretty good understanding, and I was usually much more in advance and more memorized than other people. It started getting harder and harder when I was doing, 6 to 9 roles per year. And as I gotten older, it is harder, more than people like to admit. Once you get into your 40s, and certain things like life happens, and family, and your priorities start to change. But this method will never go away for me because it's one of the only things proven by neuroscience as how to really memorize things. It's not trying to do it and cram it all in at once. You have to do it in incremental patterns so your brain kind of gets used to it. And I remember a long time ago reading about a study that was done about people that were learning Spanish. And some people were learning Spanish really intensely and doing it every single day, but it was completely foreign to them. But some people in another control group were learning a bit of Spanish, and then they'd put it away for 5 days. Then they'd come back and they'd review it and do it intensely. Then they would put it away and then come back. And at the end of the month, the people that were doing it in spaced time, repetition, it was much, much better. They were showing insane amounts of improvement rather than the people that are doing every single day. And that's because there's so much new information to do when you're learning a role that you can't take it all in and just seriously study. Right now I'm going to study the character development, the sounds that I need to be making, the phrasing, the word structure, and the rhyme scheme. There's a million things to do within a score, so you have to kind of give yourself time. So when you're doing things as crazy as I do, and especially the long, really, really long operas that I've become known for, is like these 4-hour operas or things where you have 5 arias and 3, like Hoffman, that's a perfect example. Uncut, the Tales of Hoffman is just insanity, because I think there's 4 arias and then 3 duets and 2 terzets and 5 finales. It's just so much repertoire. It's like 3 operas in one. And the only way that you can keep all of this kind of straight in your head when you're going back to back to back to back to back is by looking at it a little bit, putting it away. Then your brain starts a new little tree inside and says, okay, I've got this new opera. Now I'm going to look at it. And it just kind of puts it in a little compartment here. But then you go and do that method that a year before, and say you don't even have a full schedule, or you're really, really wanting to do something. If you want to memorize things, just use this and set yourself goals that in 1 year I want to have, let's say, Carmen or Rigoletto or Tosca, any of these roles in these operas, or whatever your favorite opera is, and set a goal that I'll have it memorized in a year. Don't say I'm going to do it in 3 weeks. Of course, there's other times where you have to jump in, you have to memorize things extremely fast, like on the fly, and that's a different kind of set of memory. But to manage a career that's as insane as mine, that's how I've had to learn. It's spaced repetition learning. And so I find it incredibly helpful and useful. But a lot of people think that, oh, I've got to do it all now. But if you find out different methods, you've got to find which way works for you. Some people really, really like and that's how they learn. They learn completely through serious work for a couple of days, and then they've got it memorized. I mean, some people are really, really good at that. But for me, trying to keep all of these things in order, the only way to do it is by basically overlapping different disciplines and different sounds than ways of studying it. So I find it incredibly useful in my own career. So hopefully some of you will find that as well. So.